Today I'm going to be setting up a diesel heater for the shed here. I'm going to put a heater in and get rid of I had been using one of those portable buddy heaters. What I don't like about those is they're not vented. They don't put out enough BTU, and you get some condensation because it's not vented. And the other thing is that the propane bottles, the small ones, you go through them really fast, and they're expensive, and it doesn't make sense for me to try to keep this workshop heated up with that. However, this setup, I think this was only about 100 and say I think 15 or to 120 bucks or so on Amazon. I saw this one that got some nice reviews because it's quiet. You don't get that tick 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 noise from the fuel pump. You'll get it, I guess, when you first start it up and it's priming and whatnot, but you don't get it throughout the rest of the process. The other thing I ended up doing was grabbing a vent kit. I think this might have been 16 or 18 bucks. There are various ones that are out there. This way I can vent that exhaust out the back wall and not even worry about having to use this little muffler thingy that they give you with this. And it'll be a somewhat permanent, a fixture for that exhaust. And if I need to pull this away and set it up somewhere else or do whatnot, I can keep that, bring it, somewhere portable, and just pull this off of it. Now, you can see carbon monoxide detector, that'll be in there. This is basically all the parts that come with the kit. I'm going to do a quick assemble. I'll go through this real fast after I double check the instructions. And I am putting in an inline 15 amp coming off of my battery banks in here. I want to have this fused, and just in case something goes wrong, it'll have a fuse. I know some people run it off 10 amps and say it's fine. I think pretty sure the recommendation says to have a 15 amp. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go through a lot of the basic stuff, like wiring this stuff in, because, that's pretty normal stuff. But I will go through later as to just exactly how to set this up. The new model is not out yet. It's not expected to be out now for another month or two. And the new model actually has the vents not underneath. You can see here, these are where your vents come out. Your exhaust vent, and also the fresh air vent that pulls in air. The new one also has your display up top. So the nicer setup on the new ones is, I don't remember if it was from the side on the vents or the front, but they changed that. But it's not available yet, so I didn't get it. It doesn't matter for me, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up installing this up on blocks, and then this way I can route the stuff underneath and still have a good gap under there. So I'm going to start getting going on this. But what it comes with, you can see it comes with a whole bunch of this, and they throw a whole bunch of extra stuff in here. Extra clamps. Here is the filter thing for your fresh air intake. Here is your exhaust and the muffler, and then it comes with some feet. A couple of these, guard things here if you want to put them on here for your vent. This, what it does is allows you to, almost like a hair dryer, not hair dryer, like a clothes dryer vent, and you can then put this on here and then blow the heat whatever direction you want it to go. And this is just a tube for the air intake. Now you can see rated voltage is 12 volt, 40 watt, and like I said, all I'm going to do is hook this directly into my battery bank setup. 40 watt, I don't think that's going to do too much with my battery bank as far as drawing too much power, but I think I'm going to get a ton more heat out of this, and less efficient and less expensive. I can spend 20 bucks on a 5-gallon jug of diesel and run, I believe I saw some specs on someone that tested this before. He got 30 hours on low with this one tank. I think he got 11 hours on high. that is pretty impressive for output. And so in the long run, you're going to save a ton of money. And honestly, those portable buddy heaters aren't much less expensive than these things are. Sure, they're a little bit easier as far as people who don't want to go through the trouble of hooking something like this up, but anyone that wants to heat a shed or a small garage, or your van life stuff, this is honestly the way to go. So, but I want to test it out. I probably won't run it today because it's going to be about 50 today, but it'll be about 20 something tomorrow morning, and only highs of mid 30s. So then I'm going to come in here tomorrow and test. After I get it all done, I will test with a indoor thermometer what the temperature is, get this thing running, see how long it takes to get this workshop in here up to about, say, 70 degrees. I mean, it's not that big. It's a 13 by 13 shed workshop, but if I can get this up to, I like it at 70. That's just comfortable for me. A lot of people will be happy to have it at 60 or have it at 65. But if I can get it at 70 in a short amount of time, and then it's consistent, I'll be very, very happy with this. I'm going to start working on assembly of this. Now, the only thing that I'm going to point out real quick, because the instructions are awful. They don't tell you pretty much what is the exhaust vent and which one is the intake. So the one towards the rear, that's closest to this rear fan back here, and your 12-volt hookups, that is your air intake, and this is your exhaust fan, the one that's closer to the front. So just so you don't accidentally hook it up to the wrong ones. Alright, there's your basic assembly. Now, if you were going to not be using a exhaust vent like this, you would just put your muffler on here and then vent that out however you would be setting this up for temporary use. However, since I am doing that, now I need to figure out, I need to set this in place in there, get mark it where I'm going to drill it through the sidewall, get this installed, and then get the rest of this basically somewhat permanently assembled before I can then hook up the 12 volt, turn it on, figure out what the settings are on here, and then fill it with fuel and then get it fired up. They say you want to run it about 2 hours or so for a good burn time, so I'll likely do that today and keep the door open just to get all the fumes out. As you can see, I put the vent in, and I didn't go through much with that because everyone's application is going to be different, whether you're putting it in steel belting or whatnot. I put this in here in a wood shed, so it's a wooden wall, and so I had to make sure I had the the gap around there on the outside, away from the wood a little bit, so there's some breathing room. And I just have to hook everything up. That top one I just have to tighten down just a little bit more with a screwdriver, and then I'm going to work on firing this thing up, see how it goes. We're going to try a first fire up on this to see what happens. Turn it on. I only put a little bit of diesel in there. See how this goes. I went ahead and did, I went ahead and got a fire extinguisher just in case, because you never know. And I'm trying to find a better way of, well, if I take that away totally, you can see the light better that way. You hear a little bit of ticking. It's priming that pump. Not much. You hear the fan going. I do feel some air coming out of this vent, so that's working. Ramping up. There's the glow plug. You hear it ticking louder. And from what I've seen, that loud ticking goes away after it finishes this priming and initial startup. Unfortunately, I don't have my non-contact temperature gun here at the lake, so I won't be able to actually test the heat coming off of this today, or the pipe itself, the exhaust pipe and all that. I will test that. I'll be installing another one of these at a wood shop at home, and I will test those out. But for now, today it's just to burn it, and then tomorrow to run the actual temperature test inside here when it gets really cold. You can smell it, so it's definitely running. It's going to have that initial burn-off smell. And I feel warm air coming out. Nice if they had better instructions on how to actually operate it. Yep, it's ramping down now some. You can hear it. But the heat's coming out nice. That produces some nice warm heat. I like about this is that you can adjust this whichever direction you want. You can move this, but you can also change this orientation of this plastic diverter to blow the air whichever way you want to. Right now temperatures are in Celsius, so I'll have to make some changes with that. It takes some time to learn how to use this control panel. So you can clearly hear that audible ticking. If someone can put down in the comments and let me know, I'd appreciate it. But I was under the assumption when this was advertised as no ticking, that the fuel pump in here would not have that ticking. Is this much less than the old ones where they're much louder ticking? I don't know. I've never used an old one. But so if anybody has and can throw down whether or not this is louder or this is, you know, the new quiet mode, I'd appreciate it. So you can hear that, and that's been going on now for probably a good 5 minutes. It has diminished a little bit from when it first started up as far as the level of the ticking, you know, how loud it is. But I was under the assumption that that fuel pump would be quiet. Oh, I just got out to the shed, little workshop, and I just brought this in from the house, and now it's showing 50 degrees in here. It's probably cooler. I'm gonna let this keep going down for a few minutes before I start this test. It was supposed to be a little bit colder outside today. It's down to about 39 or so right now. We had some snow flurries. Yesterday I ran this to do a burn off, so I ran it for a couple hours, but only on level 2. I was a little skeptical about running that on high because of how that exhaust port setup was going through the wall. I didn't really like it. That will work great with metal building, even though I took out some of the wood. So as you can see, I modified that last night, cut a big hole, and then basically made some flashing for the both sides, inside and out. So now it will dissipate that heat a lot better and stay away from the wood. So I'm going to try today. I'm going to run this thing for about an hour on high to see how good it does at heating up this workshop. It's been exactly 1 hour, and this thermometer earlier was at 48 degrees. This has been running on high, and as you can see now, it is down up to 65 degrees. And like I said before, this is non-insulated shed. You know, there's gap above the door, a little bit up there. You know, there's not exactly a super environment. And you can hear that going now, huh? That's on high. I'm gonna drop it down. High is number 10 on this. I'm gonna drop it down to say number 4 and let the fan and everything slow itself down. One thing I did notice, and I don't know if it's because the fan is so loud right now, that ticking you heard yesterday, and I was hearing when I was doing the first burn off, I do not hear it anymore. That fuel pump tick. So, let it calm down a little. Yeah, it's there. You can hear it. Definitely not as bad as it was though. So it worked pretty well. And one thing also that I want to mention, and you can see that it's going through this right now, do not just kill power to these units when you turn them off. It's almost like a hot air furnace or so that has to go through its own little cool down phase. It is doing its own kind of a cool down phase here when you hit the power button to turn it off. So let it do its thing before you decide to kill power to that. You are going to greatly extend the life of this unit and not have any problems if you let it do its own proper shutdown. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this from a practical standpoint. Again, I'm no diesel heater expert. It's the first one I've ever installed, the first one I've used, so I don't have any comparison to other diesel heaters, but I do have other comparisons to things to heat shops with in garages. I have used just about everything. Wood stoves. I have a wood stove in my shop back home. It's a shop like this, but it's bigger, longer. It's basically an old back of a box truck that I converted into kind of a wood shop. I use electric heat in that as well. I will be installing, when I get back, one of these same heaters in there because it actually works so good. I've used torpedo heaters that are propane, ones that are kerosene. My big garage at home, automotive, I have a forced hot air furnace. Yeah, that's the best way to go if you can. And I've used things like those buddy heaters. My take on this is that almost everything is a positive. One, the cost on this as a heater is phenomenal, $120. You can't go wrong with that. And it's, like I said, zero smell. It got this place up from like about 48 to, I think it was 65 in an hour with on high. That to me is, that alone is worth the price. Thing I don't like, that buddy heater, forget it. That would have taken all day, and it's a smell. It puts off a smell. I'm not fond of it. Now, wood stove, you run the wood stoves in there. Again, they take forever to heat up. They do work nice. However, again, if your wood stove isn't the best or not super efficient, you have a problem, you will get smoke in there. So I'm not a big fan of that either. Plus the whole open flame thing sometimes, depending on what you're doing. They have another model that's coming out. That one's supposed to be out in the end of November, and by the same company. It's got a better design as far as how the exhaust ports route out, and the LCD displays on the top. Nothing's on the bottom anymore, so it's easier for you to be able to set it up and use it. You could actually properly mount it, set it somewhere and mount it on a wall easier. To me though, that's about $70 more. I don't think it's worth it. Not for my purposes. I'd rather take that $70 and put it towards buying longer exhaust pipe. That is the one thing I don't like about this. That exhaust pipe is so short, but they do sell a longer one. I think it's like for $15 or so on Amazon. You can get a longer exhaust pipe for these heaters. That's what I would do. But my overall impression of this, very inexpensive unit, very inexpensive to run, easy to run. For me, I think it's an ideal little heater for somebody's little shop. I don't have any experience putting it in an automotive situation. But I would assume that when they get hooked up and they work right, you know, if you can run this thing on for 30 hours on low setting and keep your your camper at a reasonable temperature, you can't really go wrong. But so that's about it with this one. I will be doing another video on the shop at home, because it's going to be a slightly different setup in my other workshop with the same heater. And that one I want to put to a bunch of tests, though. I'm going to do it with the non-contact temperature sensor, and just to get a little bit more of a feel for these. Do I agree with their advertising of no ticking? Nah, that's crap. That, maybe compared to the other ones, it's less ticking, but that fuel pump still ticks and still goes. It's like anything else, though. It's when you're running a heater, you don't even hear the fans anymore after a while. Subconsciously they just kind of go away. Same thing with that ticking. And if you have it running on high, you don't hear that ticking whatsoever, because all you hear is that fan blowing. But that's it. That's pretty much all I got on this heater. If anybody has any input on better ideas for the heaters, or if there are better heaters out there, let me know, because I don't mind swapping something out down the road with a better one. All right, thanks guys.